So we will talk again now about Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated a few days ago in what has been called, and I think it's accurate, the most viewed and the most seen assassination in history. They think they've got him. So we're going to look over everything I've got for the killer now and see if we can get an idea of whether they're right, because there is some question. And we'll start with this. This was from before there was any sort of announcement, but they had apparently got him. This is Trump's first. Actually, this is the first thing anyone's heard about there being a killer in custody.
So a pastor was able to turn him in, or they got the family of the shooter to turn them in?
Well, it was a minister, and the minister went to a minister who was involved with law enforcement, by the way. And his good friend is a top U.S. Marshal. And they took it from there. And then it was a father got involved, namely his father, and said, we got to go in. And they, so I understand it. And again, subject to change. But, you know, the facts are the facts. We have the person that we think is the person we're looking for. But they drove into the police headquarters, and he's there now.
Did the father know about what the son had done?
I don't know. I'm going to let you get all those questions later, because I can't tell you how accurate. The bottom line is they have somebody that they think did it.
So, Mr. President.
Cut off black guy sentence. That was the first I heard of it, that they had someone.
It was later confirmed that the father
did
turn his son in. He reached out to someone else to contact authorities. It was suspected in order to keep his son at the house and prevent a violent confrontation with the police.
That makes sense. He probably could have saved his son's life by doing that. Let's continue through this because I've got a lot of material on this. Going to get into some details. Some of it is a couple of days old, so excuse me if some of it is missing or partial, and a little bit out of order as well. Following Charlie Kirk's assassination, Anna Paulina Luna, announces legislation to designate Antifa as a terrorist organization and impose capital punishment for its crimes. This response says, we don't actually need to ban Antifa. The Communist Party is already proscribed in this country. The law includes parties that are communist in all but name. Antifa fits the bill. I won't talk as much at length about this as I could. I'll say I am definitely very uneasy about the idea of political parties being banned, much the same as the AfD in Germany. They are trying everything to ban them. Antifa, the qualification can't merely be, do they seem like a political party, in which case we can't ban them, because all you have to do then as terrorists is to act like a political party, and suddenly you can't be banned because of free speech. I don't want parties being banned. I don't want groups that have genuine political involvement being banned. But Antifa, structurally and practically, are primarily a for-hire leftist terrorist organization who have, therefore, implicitly political involvement. It is one of those cases where it's not a clear-cut, yes, ban the communists. I think that's a little bit far, though I definitely understand why it's done. I think you might actually get better results by not banning the communists, but that's a different topic for another time. Either way, Antifa being outlawed, being designated terrorists, fine by me. I think, after consideration, specifics, they will fit the bill. Let's go to the next thing. This, I believe, is from Arch, who has also mysteriously badmouthed me online, but never mind. So Rolling Stone says, people are losing their jobs for criticizing slain free speech advocate Charlie Kirk. Strategically written title there. Here's another article from the Rolling Stone. Why cancel culture is good for democracy. Oh, look! All my sympathy has just evaporated for you, Rolling Stone. You're making it really difficult for me to say anything, even the tiniest thing, against this practice of what is essentially cancel culture that the right is doing now. I don't actually oppose it very much, and there's a specific reason that is okay. when the left does cancel culture, there's multiple stages. They find out who you are, they contact your boss, and they tell them what you've done or what you've said. In that process, finding out who you are, if you don't release that information, I'm not overly bothered about that. I don't consider it doxing unless you release it widely or really release it to anyone. If you're sharing the venture with multiple people and you let that get out, you're spreading that information, you shouldn't do that. It's similar in the sense that child porn spreads. It's not, there's no direct consequence of it spreading, but the more it spreads, the more you're endorsing what is essentially an intimidation tactic which reduces free expression. Anonymity is an expansion pack to free expression. Doxing is an attack on free expression, in my opinion. And spreading that to anyone, even if you find it's questionable, but I don't consider that doxing until you spread it. So if you do it individually, though, have less of an issue. Reporting to the place they work, then, or finding where they work, similarly to the previous point, and then telling the work what you've said, that's where the crux is. That's where the difference is. When the left does it, they say, he said something racist 10 years ago. And the workplace can choose either I don't mind that he said this, which many I'm sure would be the case, or I do mind. So if I do mind, I'll fire them, or I'll do something. If I don't mind, wait. I can't not fire them. I can't do nothing, because then the press will come down on my probably small company or medium-sized company like a pile of bricks, or even a large company like a pile of bricks, and I'll be ruined because I decided to defend this one guy's free expression. I have to fire him. And a lot of companies will do that. That's the part I don't like. It's not even reporting them to the place they work for what they've said. That I never had too much of a problem. It's shitty. If anyone I knew did that personally, it might affect my opinion of them. But there's all kinds of factors there. It's the fact that the culture supported it. It was the cancel culture that I didn't like, that was wrong. It was the ideology. The same thing applies here, except in this case, the employers really do kind of have a choice. The press won't come down on them if they don't fire the guy. They have a choice, genuinely. And many of them are choosing to fire them anyway. And I'm standing here saying I have some minor objections, some unease about this whole process, but given the situation, especially the broader situation our societies are in, I'm not going to stop you.
Well, and I would clarify, and I might point out that in a lot of these cases, like, yes, some people are being fired for saying things like, well, he got what he deserved, so on and so forth. Admittedly, bad taste things, but much to your point, like, it's more of a company decision. A lot of other people who were getting fired were saying things like, oh, this conservative next. Here's a list, which I would argue shifts out of the perspective of, oh, this is an opinion statement to a legally actionable threat. At which point, a company is not firing you for your political opinion. A company is firing you because you have advocated for murder, and we do not employ people who advocate for murder.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of them are, I think, as you say, legally actionable incitement to violence. I'm not even talking about them, although they're included broadly in what I'm saying. Another point that I forgot to add in the difference is that while the left's complaints are based on ideological precepts about what matters, even racism is an ideological precept, celebrating someone's death can't really be and thinking that's a bad thing, can't really be called an ideological matter. You don't celebrate people's deaths who haven't done anything criminal. You disagree with their opinion. You celebrate that person's death. That's not something merely wrong ideologically. I mean, you have to use ideology to think that's right. That's something that's very old to humans. So the fact that the media supports something that is purely ideological and nonsense, frankly, most of the time, and will not support something that fundamental and that old, that's as well the problem with it. So again, it's less about the process of trying to get someone fired and more about the fact that it works in all the wrong cases. That's the part that I don't like about cancel culture. So the right doing it now, I'm not really standing in the way. I'm not going to do it myself because I have some ethical concerns, but I'm not going to stand in the way. Let's go to the next thing. That's the joint thing from earlier. I do have some other stories mixed in, so excuse me, I'll get through them quickly. Scott Adams on the murder of Charlie Kirk, quote, I believe the Democrat Party has to be totally dismantled. Bear in mind, this guy was, I don't know his history very well, but I think he was a leftist up until a few years ago. He sort of came out as right-wing, as having some quite strong positions. I was saying it has to be dismantled. The Democrat Party itself essentially is in a state of dismantlement. But I'm afraid to say, Mr. Adams, as much as I'm impressed by how far you're going even here, that's not enough. The Democrat Party could disappear completely, and this cancer would keep going for at least a few years, maybe longer. Maybe it wouldn't be enough to stop it even after many years. There's other things we're doing, of course, but the Democrat Party are a tool of this evil. They are not the source of it. They may be the local source of it, but they're not the overall source of it. To say what is the source would be wrong because it comes from multiple different elite groups around the world. It doesn't have to be clandestine. It's common interest. Most of a lot of it is publicly known or publicly inferable. Definitely. We're not talking about Illuminati here. We're talking about nations and what they want, what they're willing to do for it. Often subtly behind the scenes, but often quite outwardly. The Democrat Party are just one outreach of this. There's plenty of others, and them being destroyed wouldn't be enough on its own. I won't go into the full details of that article because we've got a lot to cover in general, but it's there if you want to read it, chat. Okay, Stephen Crowder made a statement on this. This is. I'm not sure exactly what the story here is. He says that he's being subpoenaed by the ATF. No details yet, he says. So he got this email from an officer at the ATF. I guess he's being subpoenaed so that they can find out who sent him this, actually, the leak. He says, this morning, my team received an email from an officer at the ATF. The email included a screenshot from what appears to be an internal message describing a weapon and cartridges located by an ATF and other law enforcement near the scene of the Charlie Kirk shooting at the Utah Valley State University. The image is here, but the text I think is quoted here. It says, on September 10th, 2025, at approximately 12:24 p.m., conservative political influencer Charlie Kirk was shot and killed at the Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. Mr. Kirk was speaking at the university as part of the American Comeback Tour. Multiple SLC 1 and 3 agents, I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I don't think I need to, responded immediately. The suspect fired one shot from an elevator position on a rooftop in an adjacent building on the campus, and surveillance video shows the suspect jumping off and fleeing the area on foot. We do have that footage, I believe. ATF and other law enforcement located an older model imported Mauser .30-06, caliber bolt-action rifle wrapped in a towel in a wooded area near the campus. The location, I'm impressed they found it so quickly, actually. The location of the firearm appears to match the suspect's route of travel. That's probably how. The spent cartridge was still chambered in addition to so he didn't even pull the bolt back. In addition to 3 unspent rounds at the top of at the top fed magazine. All cartridges, top fed magazine. How could you see the scope then? Don't know. Don't answer that question unless you're in text. All cartridges have engraved wording on them expressing transgender and anti-fascist ideology. An emergency trace has been submitted. An ATF SLC is working leads generated by the trace. The firearm and ammunition have been taken by the FBI for DNA analysis and fingerprint impressions. Upon completion of forensics, the firearm will be disassembled for further additional importer information. Multiple people of interest having contacted or detained because of eyewitness testimony and review of video footage. The primary suspect is yet to be identified. ATF is assisting the investigation with multiple other federal, state, and local partners, and the case is co-led by the FBI and Utah SBI. Now, I can tell you now, we're going through this kind of chronologically, but I can tell you now, most of this information turned out to be true. I think all of it, actually. I believe what's odd about it is that this was leaked to Crowder early. Credit to him. I believe he was the first person to break this news through this leak. But then I expect this is what explains he's being subpoenaed by the ATF, because the ATF had no intention of keeping this to themselves, as indeed it released. Well, I suspect they didn't. But they want to know where the leak is, because they can probably prosecute on that basis. You never know, because the thing is with leaking, you do have to know what you're doing. You do have to be responsible because you could put people's lives at risk for no real gain if you leak wrong, if you leak badly. Maybe this did, or at least they want to not risk it.
My suspicion would be, in this case, the reason they're subpoenaing Crowder, and the agent probably did it due to potential worries about a government cover-up. I think the reason the ATF is pursuing this is because, in this case, even Democrats, at least those with any sense, have gone, this is political violence. We need to be 100% behind tracking this down, persecuting it, figuring it out. So the reason the ATF is trying to track down the leak is because any weakening of the potential case to prosecute this person, they want to prevent. They want to have it sealed up. They want it to be confident they could execute it perfectly.
I hope you're right that it's that much of a virtuous motive. Let's continue because we've got a lot to get through. And Twitter has to reload the page every time I go to it. They're talking about because there was indeed, as we were just talking about, you were talking about the principles, but now the practicality. There was a massive wave of reports from right-wingers to try to get people celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination fired, and many were reported successful. This guy says, we are going to fucking spike the unemployment rate. He says, I'm hearing from some real certified patriots, whatever that means, that a database will be published in 24 hours containing the names and employers of 15,000 libtards who celebrated Charlie Kirk's death. Your job, patriot, is to get them fired, he says. As I said, I can't endorse it, but I'm also not going to stand in your way. This database, as far as I know, has now been published, and I do have it open for us to look at a little later. Let's continue going chronologically. The Utah governor spoke on this, and I must say I don't intend to play much of his speaking because he is very bad at it and he's a bit soft, but he said Russian and Chinese bots are trying to encourage violence online over Charlie Kirk's assassination. We should put our phones down, he says. If Russian and Chinese bots are trying to encourage violence, they are probably being swamped and drowned out by the actual Americans doing it. I'm not criticizing them either. Let me go ahead and put this up. What I have, perhaps not always as articulately or as clearly as I should have done, but what I have always intended to say, and what I have certainly articulately said in recent times, is if you are going to do anything in Minecraft beyond words politically, your primary goal, you are entering a war if you do that. Now, we're in a culture war. It's physical for many people, but it's not yet the kind of war you're entering if you do that. And in war, you do not operate on the basis of emotions. You do not take action purely for revenge. You're going to lose if you are controlled by your emotions. In a war, in Minecraft, between two different villager factions, you do what makes you win. Either you continue peacefully, which has many strategic upsides. It's not merely cowardice. It's not pacifism. Continue peacefully, strategically, or all-out, total, quick victory. If you don't have the people for that, and if you're not willing to lose the supporters you will lose by going into that, it's not worth it. If you're going to take it upon yourselves to be the man, be a big boy, and start hurting people or start pushing people around, getting people fired the old-fashioned way, then you do not have the luxury to be a child and let your emotions control you. You must be smart about it. Now, at this moment, I don't recommend a politically violent response. I understand the sentiment, though. I will talk more about this, I think, later, and we have talked a lot about it off stream. This has been a big topic of debate in Cabal. If you're not in Cabal, definitely join. But there's so much data to get through here. I'm going to move on for now, though there's plenty of debate we could have on this. We will have it later. Let's go to the next thing. I don't want to listen to that guy again. He's kind of awful. Okay, so what was this? I will skip this source of information for now. We'll get to this later. Okay, what was this about? Yeah, that's the shot. Now, while we were analyzing this on stream, Nomon, member of Cabal, fairly recent joiner, was analyzing potential locations, him and others, and we got pretty much exactly right in our prediction of where the shooter was. I mean, what a location. I'm sorry to be macabre. What a location. What better location could you have asked for than this? And there's fairly easy access to that roof as well. I know that he does loads of these tours, and it's a university. You wouldn't expect this, but I don't know, man. I would, if I was working security here, I'd give this some fucking thought. You never know who you're going to have speaking. You never know who's going to want to shoot them.
Yeah, the problem is, unfortunately, without police powers, without all these other things, because again, college campuses, specifically this one, it's a no firearm zone, so the long gun shouldn't have been there, but you fall into the same category of how do you effectively security against this without completely changing the format of his debates and his discussions?
The thing is, after the first assassination attempt against Trump, I was saying, bruh, if I was in his position, I'd want bulletproof glass at every event. People were saying, Cull looks cowardly. Yeah, but it's worse if he dies. It's Trump, for goodness sake. He's kind of important, right? And there's a debate to be had there. The problem is with Charlie Kirk, Tommy Robinson is attacked by Antifa all the fucking time. Charlie Kirk isn't, as far as I know. As far as I know, it's pretty rare for violence to even happen around him. So even if you were to say, I'm a public speaker, conservative, I should have bulletproof glass, Charlie Kirk is not the first person you'd think would need it, not by a long shot. So this was a surprise to a lot of people. And to what you're saying, Doc, yeah, you'd have to change a lot of assumptions and expectations to know to put that particular kind of defense. Still, I would want someone like monitoring these roofs, maybe limiting access to them. It's not like you couldn't make this shot if you were somewhere more visible to people, but holy shit, what a location. Again, I'm sorry to be macabre about it, but just speaking practically, what a location.
It's a good position, and it's a fairly easy shot. The actual placement of the round when it hits. Oh, got it. I see that Puppy is just a shill and a troll. Understood.
Well, we'll get to that.
It's a very... By the way the shot actually landed, everyone's talking about, oh, it's a professional. It wasn't. You don't target neck shots. It's center of mass. If I had to guess, the dude was... Given the range, given a downward angle of the shot, and considering the fact that a standard barrel is actually at a slightly upward angle, and where it hit, I'd imagine that dude was probably trying to aim for the center of mass on a rifle zeroed at about 100 yards on a flat level, and that's why the shot was lower neck, upper chest. Because the professionals tend to go more for the head.
The neck did strike me as a weird location, because a pro would probably be able to make the headshot, I guess. But then, I don't know, maybe they usually go for body shots. But the neck did sort of imply that either it was a really long shot and he got very lucky, or it wasn't a pro.
So the person saying it deflected upwards, no. Kirk was not wearing a plate. This is 30-06. And when rounds hit like a plate, if they spall at all, it doesn't remain as one cohesive round. I'm saying it, and I'm not talking about bullet drop. I'm saying the person doesn't know how to do basic ballistic calculations, doesn't understand in an elevated shot how to do any of that properly so that it hits higher. And some people are pointing at, oh, well, snipers, like some snipers, they hit the neck. They don't. They aim for the base of the skull and the brain stem. It looks like it hits the neck because they're aiming for that junction point where the skull meets the neck. This dude hit just above the collarbone, which tells me he was probably trying to aim at where people think the heart is, more towards the top of the chest as opposed to mid-sternum or lower.
See, I actually think he was aiming for the head and was just too much of lacked the significant training to actually pull that shot off.
That's a fair point to discuss. It could have been he sucked shooting for the head. I thought it was the chest due to the degree of separation, because if you're aiming for the head but you've got a greater than 8-inch dispersion on, even if it's a poorly maintained rifle, it's still probably 1 minute of angle. So it's only naturally going to drift by about 1.5 inches. So to be off by 8 to 9 is unlikely, but I could see a poor shooter trying to aim for the head from an elevated position, miscalculating and having a lower point of impact. That
I think we could
position.
We could go on discussing this for a long time, but we have so much to get through. I do appreciate the input so far, though. This is another picture of the location, and yeah, even to me, that quite clearly looks like where someone's lying to take a sniper shot, which of course we know happened. So this guy says, this guy says, I'm not trying to be cold by pointing this out. I'm just trying to stop a bunch of clout-chasing douchebags from spreading their stupid fucking conspiracy theories, he says. He says, there is no fucking chance this was a professional shooter, period, end of fucking discussion. A pro wouldn't have hit him in the neck. It would have been head or heart. A pro also wouldn't have used a fucking hunting round and a shitty rifle. This wasn't a hit. It was an assassination from a lone gunman. The most likely explanation is usually the correct one, he says. The target was a 6'5" man, quote-unquote man, wearing a bright white t-shirt on a sunny day at 200 yards. Someone who hated Charlie Kirk would only have to go to the range a handful of times to get this shot down, even if they had never picked up a rifle.
Charlie Kirk was definitively a man, because it's referencing the target. Charlie Kirk was a 6'5".
I'm terribly sorry. I didn't mean that. I meant the shooter. I got confused there. Well, you'll find out more about the shooter later and why I said that erroneously in this case. So my impression is that this guy's probably correct. I was saying initially, distinct possibility of it being Mossad or some other intelligence agency because of what it could do to destabilize the US. But I thought that the main hub on which that theory rocked was whether they caught someone. Now, maybe it is a patsy, but it's definitely plausible this is the right guy. I was thinking if they'd never caught anyone, much like, or there was a big chunk of information missing, like the Las Vegas shooter, that it was more likely to be something else. In this case, I'm definitely leaning towards it was indeed a lone crazy gunman with all the information that's coming out. It's still possible it wasn't, but it does look like it was.
Mossad makes a point of not really creating martyrs, and the other point many people tend to forget is most professional organizations in general, like if a woman or a child is the target, they'll kill them. Most professional hitters aren't going to execute someone in front of their daughter, because that tends to create people and create stories that don't get moved on from and don't drop from the public zeitgeist. Mm-hmm. If it was Mossad, likely it would have been Charlie Kirk slips on a stairwell and happens to crack his skull open and break his neck. Something that would disappear, not, this Christ-like figure is sacrificed in front of a large group of people and just lionizes and canonizes a massive group of people. That's not...
Well, unless that's what Mossad wanted. The hypothesis, and of course this is very flexible, very fluid, very suppositionary, is that they would want the US right to become violent and just destroy the left. It's my opinion, leaning towards the opinion, that Israel is primarily concerned with leeching the US and thus want the current right to continue to ascend as long as they continue liking Israel. And they don't like the current left.
Not to mention Charlie Kirk has been on record as, although it might have been changing, but he had been pro-Israel and defending Israel, which is the biggest counter. He'd not spoken out against them or exhausted any kind of usefulness.
Generally speaking, no, but there were plenty of reports that was changing recently, and I believe I have some here that we'll get to soon. Let's continue for now. So this one is concerning Israel. I believe the next one is as well. Netanyahu announced that Charlie Kirk had been assassinated 20 minutes after the shooting. This was before any official American news source and before Trump's announcement. How did Israel know so soon, they said. Now, this is a little unfair because I can't remember exactly who, but we saw several other people issuing their sorrow or feelings either way for the incident. I can't remember if Netanyahu said he's dead or just implied an awareness he was dead or implied an awareness that he was hurt. I don't think he implied an awareness he was dead, but even if he did, I don't think he was the first. He may have been fairly early among that number, but I don't think he was the first. If anyone wants to look into it and compare, tell me I'm wrong. That's as I recall.
So the one thing I would say is approximately 5 seconds after I saw the initial video, I knew Charlie Kirk was dead.
We all thought the same thing. Yeah, it looked pretty fatal.
And also from the perspective of a country that has some of the best trauma and combat doctors and that has seen a hell of a lot of gunshot wounds, it is not that hard to see that round placement and go, that man has been assassinated. Barring a miracle, you're hoping against hope.
And it looked for a moment like there may have been one. He was allegedly alive in the hospital, but I believe he died there.
Charlie Kirk was probably dead en route. Because I gamed it out. The way Charlie Kirk survives is if you have a trauma surgeon and a vascular surgeon in the front row of that crowd and about 6 units of O negative, and it's literally just he's been hit. He's under the knife. They're immediately going to work, and you're running a bunch of blood all out.
Yeah.
The best.
Other people here were saying the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Best first aid, attempting to staunch the bleeding. It doesn't matter. If this had been a university hospital that specialized in vascular surgery, maybe. If it was literally 30 seconds to haul him into an OR. But we saw it took greater than 90 seconds for him to be off scene and off site. He was dead.
Yeah, unfortunately so. We thought the same thing as you, Doc. I don't think it's overall. I think that's the universal one. I may be mistaken. Okay, so yeah, I think look into it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Sick Bobby, man, this is your time. Go for it. I don't think what Netanyahu said, the timing of it, was actually all that suspicious because other people were saying similar things. We did see that other people were. So the next thing. Let's just get a few of these to refresh before I can get to them. Thank you, Twitter. It says here, last week, all of Zionists' media was attacking Charlie Kirk for exposing Israel. I didn't see that, but a lot of people have been saying it. Now they're painting murals of him in Israel. It says everyone knows what happened and they're freaking out. It is, I have to say, a possibility that is available. The evidence allows for it, I believe. We will look more into it. As you say, Doc, and I would agree, the hit does appear to not have been a professional. But maybe it's a professional pretending not to be. Or maybe Mossad led him into doing it. The whole idea of, he slipped and cracked his skull. Yeah, that's the way that a professional would do it. But as time goes on, the psyops deepen and they thicken. Would it not be in Israel's interest to kill two birds with one stone and to frame literally a tranny for doing it? And could they have the resources to do that? Probably. So I think it's still an available option. I don't think that it was literally a Mossad agent who fired the shot, but it may have been a Mossad op at some level.
But here's the thing. If you lionize and canonize the right, you're pushing an even greater strength towards an America first, a purging of to less susceptible, less manipulatable individuals. Like, I'm not saying Israel and Mossad couldn't pull this plot out. It's literally just in gaming the entirety of the scope out. The groups that theoretically would benefit, it's not Israel. Ukraine's not going to benefit from this. Israel's not going to benefit from this. the groups that theoretically might benefit the most would be Russian and China, because this is going to force introspection, America first, and a purge within the United States. Israel's not, this doesn't benefit Israel's funding.
My suspicion on that, Doc, the reason I think the theory is plausible is one possible answer for what's going on with the West is that Israel, yes, bit of a parasite, bit of a leech to Western countries, manipulates Western countries to keep Israel going, but doesn't fundamentally want to destroy the West. China, however, basically wants to become world hegemon, and China's pawns have been the left, and wokeism mostly originates there or has been forced through their influence, and Israel has mostly been strengthening the rhinos and playing the right. Not so much MAGA, but they've certainly injected themselves into it. So MAGA would be their strongest soldiers in the US. And of course, Israel really needs the US, so they actually want to promote the right, that they'll use all kinds of evil means to do it. At this moment, the right has more power than it's had in years. I say this moment, before he was assassinated, they had the most power they've had in many years. The opportunity to purge the left would be theoretically the easiest about now. Israel may have wanted a spark event to wipe out China's influence in the West so that they could keep their influence over the West and get rid of the left forever. Because MAGA is pro, like the entire movement isn't definitively pro-Israel, but most of its supporters, most of its major figures are pro-Israel in practice. So they would get the most out of making sure they stay in power, that they filter out all those who support anti-Israel policies.
So
go on.
It's an interesting, I would say it's an interesting thought process, and one I don't necessarily disagree with. But if we accept Israel to play kind of 4D chess like everyone else seems to accuse them of, one could look at the left as it currently stands and objectively realize, oh, we really don't need to do anything. These people are self-escalating, self-destructing, and it is more injurious to us to potentially plot or create a plot or to have a whiff of any fingerprints around it. Israel looks at the left like, oh, that's a monkey sitting on a powder keg with a box of matches. We don't need to touch anything, just leave it alone. And it'll work out in our favor.
Yeah. Somnus, Mitch McConnell's Chinese wife, Chinese don't exclusively operate the left by any means. And of course, what I just presented as a hypothesis, I'm not sure I believe that fully. I think that's probably quite close to the truth, but it's probably not exactly right. But why would you not turn down why would you turn down the opportunity to control the head of the rhinos if your main pawn to the left? And yes, the EU, UN, and interior US influences have horses in this fight as well. But if we're talking about foreign influence, if we're talking about potential suspects for this, I'm not even saying China, I'm just saying it, people saying it's Israel, and there are some other reasons to believe it. I think it's plausible. I don't think it's the more likely answer, but I think it's plausible. I'll leave the door open on that broadly.
Again, I'm not saying it's impossible, but again, gaming it out as to what's most advantageous. Charlie Kirk is, I don't think anyone could agree. Charlie Kirk, after doing this successful business, was headed for a career in politics. This was probably the next sort of populist Trump president after he hit 35. So 2028, 2032 election. The play for Israel and others, again, why I'm supporting the crazed sort of lone gunman theory a little more, is quite literally because for everyone else, the most advantageous policy, especially because Kirk was popular with Trump, is to ingratiate yourself with Kirk, become friendly with him because he's widely renowned for taking care of and listening to his friends. That's the play.
The problem is, Doc, if he had in private become much more sour on Israel than we realize, then they might have preferred him dead than in the position he is of popularity and influence speaking against Israel. They might have seen that as the first crack in the armor that would have crumbled the whole thing apart, the whole MAGA support for Israel, which I think is probably too much of a concern. But when you're in that kind of position, you don't want to let anything to chance. So they probably, set it up to produce many of their goals at once.
So I can't outright refute that, but again, based on their standard playbook, they would have done a reverse Epstein. They would have fabricated and presented horrible things about him and then seen it through. Because again, the problem is in death, Charlie Kirk has become a martyr and his reputation cannot be impugned. His ideas become immortal. If you're truly concerned about his ideals, you want to disgrace him, not eliminate him. In eliminating him, as we've seen happen, you've just...
But if he'd spent most of his career being pro-Israel and then had some thoughts about becoming less pro-Israel, they knock him out before he can do that. And what's immortalized is what he had always been rather than what he was just about to be. No, again, it's just a theory, it's a possibility. Sick Puppy suggests essentially a test. If you see Turning Point USA become much more pro-Israel, much more Jewish now, that would go some way to demonstrate it, but that could happen anyway. Let's continue though. I do appreciate your input, Doc. I'm sure you have more to say, but with a lot to get through. Netanyahu, this was his post. He says, Charlie Kirk was murdered for speaking truth and defending freedom. So he did say that. A lion-hearted friend of Israel. He fought the lies and stood tall for Judeo-Christian civilization, he says. Many other things being said there. Thank you, Sick Puppy. We don't have any other posts about him, about people knowing he was killed to present in comparison. Netanyahu was an early poster of this, but I don't think he was the first. If anyone can find... I believe there were other people giving remorse over his death. J.D. Vance possibly, who were first before Netanyahu. Still, Netanyahu was early, so there's some potential suspicion there.
And not to discount the blue check mark, but Joker profile photo, Joker Waffen friend tag, definitive possibility of an edgelord or a shit poster. Not to outright discount it, but
You can ignore the post at the bottom. Sick probably just included that for for flavor, I think. The question is, why did Netanyahu post this so early? But again, I remember him not being the first we saw to post this kind of commiseration. Senate blocks Epstein file release in 51 to 49 votes, sparking bipartisan outrage over hidden records. That is worth covering. But not in the middle of this topic. I will remind me about that later, Ginger. If there is anything to cover at all, actually. Okay, we've got this footage now. I haven't seen this yet.
Out in the top left corner. We'll go ahead and play that video and I'll narrate as we walk through that. So here you see that the suspect ran behind that upper building. He's going to come out on the right, move to this.
There he is. Incidentally, the footage that we saw of someone running up on that roof, we were pretty sure that was the shooter, but it's kind of chilling to say that, yes, that was the shooter. That little dot running over the top of that, the background of that shot, that was the shooter. I think we can say with confidence.
Far right corner. As he does, he's going to climb off the edge and then drop down to the ground. As he
Quite a high drop.
Some palm impressions. There's some smudges, some places we're looking to collect DNA. There's a shoe imprint where we believe the suspect is clearly identified as wearing Converse tennis shoes. Again, we'll replay that again so you can get another view of that. It's important to note his black t-shirt, his black pants, and there appears to be some white on the soles of those Converse tennis shoes. Those are all identifiable items that we're looking for.
So, Nomon last stream was doing the good work of looking into possible access to where he took the shot. There was a staircase, so why did he jump off the roof? I don't know. Well, I'm not looking for intelligence in this crazed gunman.
Shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line.
Yes, agreed.
And
but He wasn't being pursued
goes
yet.
to speak to the not a pro. Well, yeah, but he just took the shot. He sees the man fall over.
Yeah.
A trained professional walks away, doesn't panic, doesn't
Yeah.
run in order to blend in. The amateur runs like the cops are instantly on him because he's got that video game logic of, oh, there's a shot. The shooter's over there.
Yeah. So Netanyahu did say praying for Charlie Kirk at, what was that? Oh, the time zones are different. So, Bobby, do you have a link to this original tweak so I can look to compare the times? But apparently this was before. Apparently this was before he was shot. I wonder what led to Netanyahu saying this, because that is quite suspicious, actually. And yeah, there was this guy saying Charlie thinks Israel will kill him. So there were some other indications. Let's continue, though. Let's continue with the footage.
In the stills that are going to follow this, you're going to see.
All right. Sorry. Yes, so probably that one. Just to compare the times. So this one was 20 minutes after, 10:21. This was 8:02, yeah. So it was about 2 hours before, about an hour and a half maybe before the shooting. Bit suspicious, that. Now, the question of why would he announce this if it was his hit? Well, because people who know will know he would want to create the threat, but the rest of the public would probably dismiss it. So yeah, it is plausible. If the idea was to ignite the right's fury at the same time as silence Charlie, who was about to start talking against Israel, at the same time as immortalizing Charlie's existing speech in favor of Israel, at the same time as giving a warning out to anyone else who might want to speak against Israel. Hey, that's a set of motives enough, possibly, to motivate this. But of course, it doesn't look to have been a professional shooter, so there's still a bit of a hole there. But I'd say that the hypothesis that Mossad was involved or could have been motivated to be involved is definitely plausible.
Very distinctive T-shirt with an American flag and appears to have an eagle on it. There's also a baseball cap with a triangle on it and a pair of sunglasses. All distinctive, all things that we would ask the public to look for and try to identify if they know someone who has those items, who has been seen wearing those items. We're looking for all that information.
Yeah, they're not anymore because they did find him, allegedly. AC is correct. Please archive anything important that you find. There's some weird issues with the archival site on my system. I'm not sure exactly why, but I think it works for everyone else. And also I'm streaming, so I'm going to do it right now. But please do archive any important links that you have. You don't have to link the archived version to me, but do have it available.
Here you see the suspect after dropping off the building. He moved around across this grass area, around the parking lot. We're going to pan to the right. After he crosses the street, this is where he moves over into the wooded area. This is the video evidence that we utilize to track his movements and to locate that firearm in that wooded area following the discovery of this evidence.
Yeah, that was the footage of him leaving the area. I don't think it tells us much more, except what we already commented on. Let's continue with more on this matter.
Thank you, Governor. Bo Mason, Commissioner for the Utah Department of
All right, I believe this is the exact same recording, just from a different starting point. Oh, there's a bit more. Yeah, there were these images as well, which I think we'll see in other examples. But this is the man depicted here does resemble distinctly the man that they apprehended. It is, I think, the same guy. Now, this is interesting. I saw this video from this person on the day, but didn't know who it was, so I ignored it. But apparently it's the guy who was talking to Charlie Kirk, asking questions just before he was shot. The guy is clearly a leftist, and he was asking some fucking Reddit tier gay trap questions. But he's not, as it seems, a fan of the assassination.
And people have obviously pointed to the irony that the point that I was trying to make is how peaceful the left was right before he got shot. And that only makes sense if we stay peaceful. And as much as I disagree with Charlie Kirk, I'm on the record for how much I disagree with Charlie Kirk, but like, man, dude, he is still a human being. Have we forgotten that? Are we crazy? Like, and people have.
He's probably being honest here. And I want to say that there's been a lot of talk which this might contravene, and it's understandable. And it really is understandable. It's really lamentable that this happens. But there are more, probably, human beings on the left than psychos. I know it doesn't seem like it. It's really hard to spot them, and they don't make themselves very well known. And the right has a much better balance. But most people involved in politics, even on the left, are not the evil fucks that some of them are. A lot of them are. And it's hard to spot them. And they're becoming less leftist. The moderates we talk about leaving the left and joining the right, hell, they can't exist if it's all psychos. So let's pick one narrative here. Yes, there are many moderate leftists still there. They're very quiet, except when they're being, Reddit tier debate faggots like this guy. But they don't approve of the killing. And there are still more who are quote unquote moderate who don't disapprove of the killing, wouldn't do it themselves, and then there's those that would do it themselves.
So having seen some shit and having interacted, people keep throwing Patsy around. I would not be surprised if this gentleman turned out to be a genuine Patsy, as in some Discord or some other group, someone was like, "Hey, you need to go up and like." I wouldn't be surprised if this individual was genuinely set up, because everything about him in his interactions with Charlie, his chest is open, he's projecting his chin forward, he's giving none of the typical assassination or aggressive, he's bloviating, he's big chested, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna make a point. That's not someone who's actually suspecting a fight. So it's good that he was asked questions, but he gives off the vibes of, oh, fuck, wrong place, wrong time.
In case I don't know who you're talking about here, Doc, but this is the guy who was asking Charlie questions on the mic. Yeah. He's not being suspected as a patsy. He wasn't involved. But he was asking questions.
Because of the timing of the shot with the questions asked, if anyone was to be a patsy, it was probably this guy. I think if he came up with the questions organically, that's one thing. I think, as you said, Reddit tier questions. What if Reddit or some Discord was like, "Hey, you go to the school, right? You should ask Charlie, blah, blah, blah."
It doesn't make sense for this guy to have been involved. And he wouldn't work as a patsy either. It wouldn't make sense for him to ask that exact question just as he was shot either, because it makes if he had said something, if he had said something about how guns are dangerous and then Charlie got shot, that's their advantage, narratively, small one, but still, that they could spin. If he's saying the left is peaceful and then Charlie's shot by a tranny Antifa, they fucking shot themselves in the foot with that one. So no, I have no reason to think this guy was involved any more than just asking some gay questions.
The question he literally asked was, who perpetuates the most mass shootings?
Right, well, that was the line he was going on, yes.
So yeah, no, I think I would argue he could have been primed up or set up.
I don't think so, but okay. AC says, my prediction is that this will end up being a sort of filter in the same way that all the good cops ended up resigning over COVID mandates. The left will probably get exponentially less human as all the humans leave every time the radicals do something stupid. That's definitely true. Been happening for years, I think. But this will be the biggest such single example. Someone says, I think Doc is saying that this guy, if he was a patsy, he might have been duped into asking that question as a signal to create a story about a gun rights activist being shot while defending gun rights. Yes,
Thank you,
but okay, fair, but he wasn't really on that topic. Like the topic was about guns, but it was about shooting. And what Kirk said, it wasn't close enough to being about guns. You could easily have got there. You could easily have made the topic about guns if you have the microphone, and Kirk would have been talking about guns. It wasn't close enough for that to be a likely answer, I don't think.
Well,
let's go to the next thing.
You got to remember, we're logical. We're talking about leftists considering what is close enough.
Yes, but that could just as easily be said as a reason to dismiss the theory. Go to the next thing. This guy says, yesterday was a turning point for Israel-US relations. Yes, less than 24 hours and the internet already figured out who the most likely culprit was. He was their friend. He basically dedicated his life to them and they murdered him in front of his family. Israel just shot themselves. This merely to emphasize, I suppose, the hypothesis we were discussing, which I think is plausible. Not the most likely answer, but plausible. Next thing. Yeah, so this was a form of honor I think is probably reasonable. Just in, a resolution has just been filed to allow Charlie Kirk to lie in state in the US Capitol Rotunda via Representative Nancy Mace. Nick Sauter here fully supports it. Very few people deserve this honor more than Charlie, he says. My only concern on this is that Charlie was a political activist, a very effective one, a very, very reasonable one, but he was still a political activist, so it's definitely partisan. Does that matter? Probably not. It's currently a partisan government anyway, and it's the exact same party, so I don't object. The only thing is I may object if the left was doing it, but then if the left was doing it, they'd put someone utterly reprehensible in there because most of the leftist activists are utterly reprehensible. So there's the resolution. I don't think it's actually passed, or it may have done by now, but sure, go for it, and that's fine. Yes, it was about mass shootings, but they could have asked about the guns aspect of the mass shootings, but they didn't. They were asking about the perpetrator identity. His activism was the cleanest and closest to the founding ideals politics has seen in a very long time. It sure was. I mean, it was definitely within that ballpark. Breaking: Netanyahu personally requested Charlie Kirk visit Israel 2 weeks before his assassination. Kirk was rumored to have denied the request. No evidence that this is true as far as I know. It's merely it's a report from this and then the rumor that he denied it. But this to add, if it is true, this to add to the hypothesis that that Israel was involved. I'm not seeing any evidence for it.
Netanyahu did confirm that he did invite Charlie, but as that post clearly says, it was rumored that Charlie had denied.
So, yeah. Netanyahu posted at the exact same time as Trump did, which means that they both got their information from the same source, most likely. So it probably wasn't. This does not seem to indicate that Netanyahu posted with obvious foreknowledge. Of course, he could have still had foreknowledge, but there doesn't seem to be evidence of it. Yeah, I don't see any evidence in the comments to suggest, to demonstrate this. As Doc says, Netanyahu did say that he invited him, but we don't know if Charlie Kirk denied the request. But yeah, it would add to the theory. Next up, it says Jewish donors have been the number one funding mechanism of radical open borders, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies, says Charlie Kirk. So this is an example of him changing his tune on Israel recently.
And Jewish donors, they have a lot of explaining to do, a lot of decoupling to do, because Jewish donors have been the number one funding mechanism of radical, open border, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies, cultural institutions, and nonprofits. This is a beast created by secular Jews. And now it's coming for Jews, and they're like, what on earth happened?
Incidentally, Jews and Israel are two potentially very different factions. Everything I said about Israel before, wanting a particular thing, wanting to support generally the right wing, the parties in the US that support Israel's interests, that's all still possibly true, even if what he's saying here is completely right. Ethnic tendencies, genetic tendencies aside, it is very possible that many Jews are brokers of power from other foreign nations. They're in positions of authority, they have the cloak of anti-Semitism, and they're quite willing to be paid to exert this influence. So that's just a possibility. I
would point out, to put some context on the quote that Charlie has put there, Israel doesn't consider itself to be a secular nation. Charlie here is pointing out that it is secular Jews who have done this. Israeli Jews tend to be significantly more aligned to like your Ben Shapiro's.
Yeah.
So I think the distinction Charlie made there, people are trying to pull out of see, when in reality, Ben Shapiro, Netanyahu, practicing Jews and the very Judeo-Christian Charlie Kirk tended to be aligned because they always had that Abrahamic faith to fall back on.
Yep, you might be right about that. He may be talking about a different class of Jews. Still open for discussion that, but I'll continue. Now, this post is, I want to warn you before I go into it, this is about a suspect that 4chan noted as their potential pick, but it's not the one the FBI believes is the suspect. Probably it's not the guy. Jack Bellows is the name. Here's the comparison. It's going to take a while. You can see it there. It's small. I'll get a bigger one in a moment. That's the comparison. It's not the guy the FBI thinks is the killer, but there's some other pictures of him as well. I'm just showing this for you completeness. It does not appear to be the same guy. So if you see, and this is not loading, if you see Jack Bellows come up as the suspect, it does not appear to have been him. So here's the gun. Doc, your mic again. Here's the gun. A bolt-action rifle recovered near the scene where Charlie Kirk was fatally shot is seen in a photo obtained by the New York Post. That was it. And it's in a cardboard box. They said it was wrapped in a towel, I thought. But it's in a cardboard box. Maybe that's for evidence.
Correct. They put it in a gun box to store it for evidence.
Okay.
You can see the officer's shoe up top.
Okay, so another person they thought was the suspect, that 4chan thought was the suspect, was Josh Valadez. There were a few people posting about that. His account went dark after it happened, no posts. But in his profile picture, you can see the same, I assume, same make and model of gun. It looks very similar. That gun has 2 stickers on it, or 2 markings on it, and this one doesn't, but it's the other way around, so it's possible it's still the same gun, but...
No, different stock grain. You can, if you look at the butt, that one has a rubber butt plate. That one doesn't have one near the back of the butt. So
okay, I am noticing a couple of other small differences in the appearance. So yeah, I think you're right.
With the barrel finish, that's a blued barrel finish. The other one is silver. Those are not easy things to just quickly swap out or change.
Okay, gotcha. Yep. It turns out this wasn't the guy either. Josh Valadez does not appear to be the guy either, but he was initially suspected. Let's continue. Got some more posts here that we'll go through. That was taken down. I assume that was one of the killers, suspected killers that was wrong. So I had it open. Photos in Utah, really small pictures. So here are the pictures that were in that footage earlier of the killer. This is the guy that they eventually caught, not either of the 2 people that we just mentioned. More footage here. I believe this is new to this stream anyway. Security camera footage showing the alleged Charlie Kirk assassin just minutes before he killed Charlie. This is before he got there. It's been released from a homeowner. It's unclear why he was working with a limp. It's not that he's got the gun down his whole leg, because the leg is not staying straight. Maybe it's down part of his leg. But he is walking with a limp.
Back to the beginning where it's zoomed in.
Yes.
All right.
There you go. I'll press play if you like.
Yep. Okay, so you see the oversized hoodie he's wearing and how his arms kind of like that. He's probably got the barrel going down his thigh with the actual like stock and everything else up above the belt line. So he's essentially holding it from armpit to sort of just above the knee, because you can notice how he's kind of got that body swing and there's no... Yeah. So yeah, he's concealing it under the hoodie.
Okay, that makes sense. We were wondering on the day, how will you conceal it?
To the person who's saying he's walking because he dropped, this is before the shooting, not after.
That would be a fair assumption otherwise, although he wasn't walking like this after he dropped for very long. It was a pretty high drop, though.
Adrenaline's a hell of a drug.
That's true. After the shooting now.
Just hauling ass.
So, yeah. He ran back the same way. Nearly the same way. Oh, they're going to catch him there. They will. He'll be on camera there. Yep, there he is. Swimming around the back of someone's garden, it looks like. Allegedly, that's him. So that was the footage before and after the killing, where he came back and then forth on the same route. Interesting.
Which is another point against this being a professional. You don't.
Well, I think the theory is this guy's definitely not a professional. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't professional instruction, guidance, manipulation, provisioning, something above him. Though it doesn't seem super likely.
Again, I said based on his chosen paramour, he was probably manipulated.
Yes, we will get to that. Okay, next up. Oh, this will be fun. Ready, chat?
I'm sick and tired of it. Left-wingers, liberals, you need to be fucking showing your opponent's guts on there, okay? You need to be gutting them. You need to be shanking these motherfuckers and letting their intestines just ride on stage. What the fuck is this shit, man? Slice them up. Slice them and fucking dice them. What the fuck is this? You cannot have a bigger fucking layup. You could not have had a bigger fucking layup than a horrible candidate like.
I've never heard Hassan talk before. I've been fortunate not to, I don't think, or if I have, it's very briefly. God, he sounds Jewish. I never noticed. I wouldn't have guessed. He's Turkish, isn't he? Why does he sound so Jewish?
Mixing. What can you say? But usually, if you just want to throw up the banner real quick, in Minecraft, I've often wondered if Hassan has wondered about exactly how long the human intestine is. I don't know. In Minecraft, I think it could be really nice to educate Hassan on how tendons and muscles and flesh, the various layers, how they really connect. He's been doxxed a couple times, so it's like not that hard to know where Hassan Piker lives in Minecraft. So
the official character of Uzlu and the streams therein, nor Cabal officially endorse or even permit Doc to talk about the intestinal linkages of this Hassan. However, we will continue with this, and I'm sure many people feel a similar sense of distaste towards Hassan's words.
Like Herschel Walker. Sure, he was prepared very well. And Herschel Walker actually had a good
thing we do need to make sure we do. We got to keep attracting younger viewers that, grow up on TikTok, when they're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, even though they shouldn't be.
3, it's like all here. Now this guy is down. He's dead. These guys are like
fatally wounded.
They're not even running. They're not even like cowering and running away and screaming in fear. There's like, okay, well, they did it. We got our shots. Okay, is this guy done? Oh, shit. Well, okay. Well, we brought the white.
It's called shock, you fucking idiots. It's called shock. Anything that happens, I mean, like, holy shit, guys. If you live in Florida, I have an opportunity for you. If you want to earn $100,000, let me know. Jesus fucking Christ.
Flags, we can put that over the bleeding.
I don't know who this is. The video, the text here says numerous clips of Hassan Piker calling on his viewers to kill right-wingers are going viral after the slaying of Charlie Kirk, with calls for. I was hoping this would be a compilation actually, but it's not. With calls for his immediate arrest for fomenting violence, as Twitch refuses to take action. And it's remarkable they do. Yeah, quite well. Yeah, the Twitch refusing to take action against Hassan when, like, I'm all for free expression, much more than you think. Much more than the average, even free speech advocate here. I have been banned from social media platforms for speaking opinions. Hassan regularly incites violence against his political opponents, and he has an audience of millions of people. He probably should not have that platform. I'll go to the next thing. Unless anyone has a compilation of Hassan clips, because that's what I'm looking for. Let's see what this one is. It's a Destiny clip.
And I hate you partially, okay, for supporting Trump. Okay, don't ever forget that, all right? I feel like I'm half joking. No, I'm not. Never mind. Okay. I feel like
we're here. We're discussing. I'm acknowledging to you all their problems. I could say I hate leftists because I could point to some Luigi Mangione and say, and this is sort of why I hate you too, Steve.
Listen, if he would have just got him at the Trump rally, I would have been okay with it. All right. If Brian Thompson would have been one of those. Okay. Listen, if the issue is this is
he'd have been okay with it. Now, was he joking? He doesn't seem sure himself. There are, repeat again what I said yesterday. There are so many examples of leftists, politicians even, Maxine Waters, great example, literally explicitly advocating violence in such a way that would be pretty much an open shut case, in my amateur legal opinion, if brought for incitement to violence. It hasn't been done, but they easily could be. And plenty of these figures, plenty of them who use their real names, real entities. I'm not advocating any vigilante justice. You could do this fully above the board, fully above the belt, fully legally. And it probably should be done. Incitement to violence is something which I feel free speech has only a partial protection of. And maybe you could say that a society is better when incitement to violence only applies when there is violence done in response to it. But that is not currently the way that the US is run. And I am not against the way it is run in terms of just the incitement is enough. So that's probably something that could be pursued. Let's go to the next thing. J.D. Vance helped carry Charlie's casket onto Air Force 2 to be brought home to Arizona. An impressive honor. I'll play the whole thing, but, or at least I won't play it unmuted. But yeah.
Usually what I would say, pursuant to what you just said, incitement to violence should only be prosecuted if violence has been done. They shot at Trump. They've made statements about how white Christians are, the devil, they're terrorists.
But if you can directly link it to that statement, I mean.
That's valid.
Like the kind of high standards that you have for defamation in the US. The standards here are much laxer, but in the US, the standards are, I believe, you can demonstrate knowing deception and you can demonstrate financial cost. The standards for incitement to violence could be made strict as well if you can demonstrate their incitement led to this violence. You could do it that way, and that would be more free, but may lead to more violence where you can't demonstrate the link and thus more incitement. So it could be a problem. But I'm okay with either way of doing that. Yes. Great honor for his body to be carried by Vice President. I think is the takeaway from that. Next up, thank you, Twitter. Let's try that again, shall we? Secretary of War, which is quite an impressive thing to be called. Pete Hegseth indicates he is tracking and will take action to fire military personnel and Department of War civilians who are celebrating or mocking the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We covered this in detail at the beginning of this streamlet. Thank you, Pete, says this Twitter user. Quote, "We are tracking all these very closely and will address immediately. Completely unacceptable." I have no objection.
To be fair, it's not outsized or improper while in uniform or while actively serving. You are not to make overtly political statements in either direction. So it's not even like this is an exception for Charlie Kirk. This is just highly visible and has always been something you cannot do.
So this is one of the 4chan suspects, Valadez. I think he was also a tranny, hence Sky, where earlier there was a different name. This was not the guy, but it was a good guess as far as I can tell. To the next thing, but his social media was gone. He probably did it himself as soon as he saw the suspicion. What I guess. So that is also the same guy. Apparently not the killer, but goddamn, I can see why they thought it was. There's another one here. 4chan intel suspect Skyvalor, again, not the guy the FBI thinks did it, but holy shit, had a SoundCloud with a track that was uploaded with a track a month ago titled Charlie Kirk Dead at 31. Ooh, I wonder why 4chan thought he did it. Deleted the track and changed his location to Leave Me Alone, lives in Utah, Troon. Ooh, Ooh, I wonder why 4chan thought he did it. A good fucking guess. And if we trust the FBI, a wrong guess. Holy shit. Next up. Same thing again, looks like. Yeah. Okay, that's a different story. We may get back to that though. This one is interesting. A lot of people pointed to this, Alex Jones included. Alex Jones said, breaking intel, New York Times and LA Times reported Charlie Kirk being shot on September 9th, the day before his assassination. I don't know about that actually. That's not what I'm covering here, but that's odd. Plus, Amazon Books had the shooting of Charlie Kirk posted one day before his murder. Eyewitness accounts in Utah also reveal people in the crowd claimed they knew he was about to be killed. Don't know about that one. I would doubt that claim. What I'm going to talk about now is specifically the book. So let's see if I can find, I have this open somewhere. Yes, here we go. Thank you. Thank you, website. That's not very helpful. I needed that. It's not letting me connect. Okay, let me try something else. I'm going to go ahead and nothing's happening. See if this works. All right, that works. I don't know why that wasn't working before. And now we have to wait for Web Archive to load. It's going to take hours, but it should be worth it once it does. So, okay, it is actually loading. So a lot of people noticed an oddity on Amazon. Alex Jones mentioned it among some other oddities. Here we go. This is the Amazon page for a book entitled The Shooting of Charlie Kirk, A Comprehensive Account of the Utah Valley University Attack, The Aftermath and America's Response. Publication date, September 9th, a day before the shooting. Now, even if it was the day of, how do you write a full book on it? Even if you use AI to do the whole thing, how do you write a book worthy of selling on Amazon in that little time? Well, you probably could just about with modern AI, but it's still a bit of a long shot. But the day before, not very likely. What?
To be fair, Amazon will also publish anything, and
that's of course true, yes. But to be long enough that you could even call it a book. But here's what I reckon happened, because this is difficult. We were talking about this. What I'm saying now is partly based on suggestions from the people of Cabal. So thank you to them. The book, this is complicated, right? The published date is when it was first posted. However, I'm told that you can make edits to the book after it's been published. Some said, I think, within an hour, but some said anytime. So that's open for debate, but either way would work. You can make changes to it after you've published it, and it doesn't change the publication date on Amazon's page. And as you can see, quite bloody clearly, thanks, Amazon. Oh, for fuck's sake. It closed the page. As you could see quite, actually you can see it now, as you can see quite clearly in the image here, I believe this is clearly a composite of an AI-generated background image, all this tent stuff. As someone that's generated thousands of AI images in multiple different techniques myself, locally and remotely, this looks to me like AI. The text, on the other hand, is not, but it's a fairly hastily thrown together composite of an AI background, probably with, hey, AI, give me a book cover called this, and they then replaced the text with coherent text. It's clearly quite well made. A professional did this, professional graphic designer, but it's AI. You can see that there are indications of it being hastily thrown together. And I reckon that they were publishing a book, probably not a very good one, or like a minor thing, as an overview of the life of Charlie Kirk, probably from a critical perspective. But then when he was killed, and they just happened to publish it the day before, which is a big coincidence and suspicious, but possible. They published it, then he was killed, and they edited it to include the shooting of, as if it was about that. But if you look at the blurb, this book provides an in-depth, humanized account of the shooting, the immediate aftermath, and the ripple effect that reached far beyond Orem, Utah. That part could be a lie, but the rest of it is all about, readers will learn about the history of Charlie Kirk. Readers will learn about his life, his influence in US politics. So the background, yes, if you're writing about the killing, you could certainly put the background in there. But if you've written a book about his life, it doesn't take long to hastily edit in some stuff about the shooting, even when almost nothing is known, and then publish it, make an edit to the existing book. It was probably that. So, people say when looking for a motive, look, follow the money. I think someone was just trying to make some cash on changing the topic of the book to be the first person to write about it. I reckon if you were to buy this book and read it, you would find that the part about the shooting is woefully short on detail, poorly written, and sounds oddly corporate for a human to have written, almost like an AI did it. Hell, maybe the human did it himself, but he'd have to do it quite quickly. And it would be quite short. So that's probably what happened there. I mentioned it because a lot of people were pointing this. It's a weird one. It's a suspicious one, this for sure, but I think that explanation is your answer for what happened there, rather than time travel. So that's that. Now, Alex Jones mentioned a few other things here. I actually don't know about those examples. The New York Times and LA Times reporting on it being shot on September 9th. I'd not heard about that.
Now, Grok confirmed this. I went and looked it up and confirmed it. I saw this.
All right, I'll read this is 17 minutes on. I wouldn't watch that, but we'll have a look at this. So Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing allows an individual to input a publication date. It's different than a submitted date. Okay, that's actually a better answer, which is automatically included in metadata. That is a better answer. It still doesn't exactly explain why they published it, why they set it to then, why it was called the shooting, but I think a combination of that and everything I said would explain it. Okay, that's different then. Why did the New York Times report his death a day early?
So the reason why one might want to change the publishing date to the day before is precisely because of what you're demonstrating here. Everyone talks about it, everyone looks at it, everyone goes for it. And if you've written some AI slop and you want to make money, nothing sells better than tragedies.
Mm. So this is another thing that I don't think I have open in a separate tab, but 20 minutes after Kirk was assassinated, a private jet took off from an airport just 12 minutes away and its radar was mysteriously shut off mid-flight. Maybe you have a hypothesis there, Doc, as to what could explain that besides it being the secret pro shooter that escaped?
It could have been any number of just chartered fucking flights. It's not that hard to charter a plane, considering all like pre-flight checks and everything else. It's just, rich people not wanting to be tracked. Could be a private cargo flight. Given Salt Lake City's proximity to several sensitive places in Colorado with several various branches of the U.S. military, there are a lot of fucking planes that move from those military airfields to civilian airfields and vice versa that aren't tracked, aren't accounted for, because the whole fucking point is we're making civilian military cargo look just like a standard civilian class.
Fair enough. As long as there are plausible reasons why that would happen, aside from it being like covert, then sure. And if it was a professional hit, I imagine they could swing it so that it wouldn't even show up such that these people could see it.
And also, a professional hitter leaving wouldn't take an aircraft because in a plane, you are effectively trapped. You have to come down. There's a limited number of areas where you can come down versus a car. You can pull off. You can take different roads. You can pull into any like service station or rest stop and not be fucking suspicious about it. But
agreed. The question, I suppose, would be if it's a pro, he could take the plane to his home country where his people would smuggle him away.
I think I heard some.
What happened, Jackie? You cut out. I'm going to continue, but type in text if you can, Jackie. Thank you to Mormon Secret Service, who says, no, that was not our aircraft. We have nothing to do with the Kirk incident. Thank you to Mormons. It is Utah, after all. Whoever that is who sent that, DM me if you want. Tell me who you were. I'll verify it. And then I will grant you the Cabal credit you are concomitantly owed in return. I think I know who that is, but I don't know for sure. So we'll continue. So Shoeonhead had opinions on this. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's fucking a big chunk of text. But to summarize, roughly what she's saying is she still agrees with the left politically, but she can no longer support them as a movement, as a group, which is kind of how I felt about 10 years ago. Sure, you're a little slow. Not quite 10, maybe sort of 8, maybe a bit less than that. But yeah, Shu has taken quite a lot of words to say that. And she's gone into more detail as well. She generally has the correct opinions on most of the big events, though she is left-leaning on some politics, some actual opinions.
Isn't Shu, didn't she get married? Isn't she a mother now? I
think so. Because it's a type of low-power transponder that doesn't always ping back. It's common on business jets. Okay, that's probably the answer then.
Yeah, and also Shu might have just been looking for a way to escape the left now that she's married and a mother, and it could have provided a convenient out if people want to be doom-pilled.
Maybe. I've never thought of her as being particularly dishonest in that way, but maybe. All right, there's a much closer picture of the guy. I think that picture was released a little later, so with that you could pretty easily rule out some suspects. But yeah, using this, the police eventually got someone. Although we'll get to how they got him soon. Actually, they did already say the father reported him voluntarily. The FBI, and we'll get to this more later, the FBI did almost nothing themselves. I mean, I'm sure they did plenty to rule out suspects who it wasn't. But eventually the way they caught him was they were handed him. Breaking Marco Rubio's State Department will ban any foreigner from entering the country who celebrated the assassination of Charlie Kirk online, Deputy Secretary of State Chris Landau confirms. Reasonable, completely reasonable. I kind of feel, and this is very minor criticism, I think it's fine to do it anyway, but I kind of feel like this is Rubio saying, how can I use the responsibility of my office to signal my position here is correct? How can I implement a policy I'm controlling borders, how does that relate? Yes, these 6 people, we'll cancel them. It's more than 6, obviously, but people who did it, the US saw that they did it, they tried to get in, and the US remember they did it. It's going to be very few people, but still, it's a good thing to signal. It's a good intent, and maybe they will catch more than 6. Maybe I'm underestimating. Which one will? Let's continue. Mr. Herrera of House Brandon, other way around actually, says, I've gotten a ton of people asking if I'm going to be cancelling our campaign rallies or the live shows after what happened to Charlie. Absolutely not, he says. I refuse to give these terrorists what they want. They want us silenced. They want us afraid. It will be louder than ever. Good. There was a lot of concern initially that if we didn't make something hard of this, that we would just be silenced and suppressed by the threat. And that is a valid concern. But those are not the only 2 options. We can, of course, not be cowed by it, whilst also not going too far. You heard my opinion earlier, chat. I'm not coming down hard on which way you should go, which way we should go, just to be smart either way.
We can be sensible and progress forward because this escalation of violence shows that they are genuinely afraid they are losing the culture war.
I mean, yeah, I haven't...
We are doing the right things.
I think so. I haven't mentioned that today, but this wouldn't be happening if they weren't desperate. I've been saying for many years that they will get more intense as they get more desperate. And we are at their most intense, their most desperate at this moment. Yeah, that is. Oh, okay. I see what you mean, Wolf. The picture of the suspect. Okay, fair enough. In that case, forget some of what I said about it. Apparently, this picture of the suspect was AI enhanced, according to Wolf. Which actually, I can kind of see what could be some coherency artifacts in the middle there. So yeah, you might be right about that. And on the glasses, I did think that looked weird. I didn't think about it. Yes, I think you're probably right, Wolf. Still helpful, potentially. even if only heuristically. Breaking, the FBI have just announced they have now released the suspect they had in custody after interviewing him. This is the one that we reviewed on the day where we saw that that this guy had a gun. It was strange, actually, that both the suspects that they arrested, the one on the day at the location, the older white guy, that we initially thought, hey, that's the guy, but we weren't sure, but we thought it was likely. And a lot of people around him were shouting obscenities at him as well because they thought he was the guy. And there were people in chat saying drop him, like when they had to pick him up and carry him forward. And I was expecting that he was being, uncooperative, but he was innocent. He might even have been mentally ill. But it was weird that he wasn't shouting an objection. But there was one bit of footage where he seemed to be. It wasn't exactly clear, but this other guy that they arrested with this gun, he was very quiet. He was very chill and relaxed. He looked like a pro, actually. He looked like, the pro shooter who got caught. Yeah, you know how to handle it if you get caught. But no, apparently he was just some guy. But he wasn't objecting, even on camera. Yeah, that was the gun. It's not the same gun, but it's not a million miles off. At the risk of being yelled at by gun enthusiasts, it's the same kind of gun. Not the same make or model, it's the same kind of gun. But
it's as a Brit bong, yes, I can see how some people may.
Close enough. Challenge. Don't complain when I say something that is inarguably true, but general about guns. It's the same broad category of gun. That's not debatable. It is.
No, it's the same broad category of gun that the leftists like to say, well, we don't want to take this particular type of gun away, with them ignoring that is literally what is used by snipers as a high precision rifle.
And I suppose I should be more specific.
This is an air gun, but
of course, air gun. Yes, I wasn't including that in the statement. I should have done. So it technically wasn't inarguable because it's an air gun. But yes, to be specific, the FBI has just announced they had now released the suspect they had in custody after interviewing him. The suspect had a pellet gun. He was identified by bystanders as the shooter, even though the shooter was on the roof. He was the decoy. These guys were pros, they say. This Twitter user says. Now, of course, that part we're not sure about yet, but I can see why he thinks so. Let's continue. This is the actual gun recovered. And this has more detail about the ammo having pro-trans anti-fascist messages. We will get to more detail about that later. This is the ATF thing with Kirk, Crowder. We're getting near the end of my sources now, and we'll go into that in a second. Okay, this guy says, yeah, so people were talking about the ring on Charlie's finger swapping from finger to finger during the shot, and like that kind of thing. It's so unusual and so like physically questionable that you've got to realize there's got to be some mundane, dumb explanation to explain. It's not some sort of conspiracy thing. And yeah, it turns out it's the kind of ring that like clasps open and can fall off, and it did open. And it didn't wrap around his other finger. It just fell onto it, so it looked kind of like it was onto it. But I didn't even hear this being talked about. I only heard about the theory being resolved here. So that's what they reckon was the answer, in case you saw that, chat. Trump says this.
Before we begin, let me express the horror and grief so many Americans at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk have felt. Charlie was a giant of his generation, a champion of liberty, and an inspiration to millions and millions of people. Our prayers are with his wonderful wife, Eric, and his beautiful children. Fantastic people they are. We miss him greatly, yet I have no doubt that Charlie's voice and the courage he put into the hearts of countless people, especially young people, will live on. I'm pleased to announce that I will soon be awarding Charlie Kirk posthumously the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The date of the ceremony will be announced, and I can only guarantee you one thing, that we will have a very big crowd, very, very big.
Trump reacting seemingly in a very respectful way, as you'd expect. I don't want to drop the mood too much. I'll come to that in a minute. Thank you, Twitter, once again. This was, I think, the guy originally arrested. It says, kind of wild that this old man, George, is in and created a perfect distraction that allowed the shooter to escape. Yes, he's Jewish, they say. Again, another relatively small but plausible addition to the Israeli involvement narrative, but it could easily have been a coincidence as well. Yeah. I did hear some reports that he was mentally ill, and that's why he didn't react as much as you'd expect. So what we got next. Yeah, I saw this. This was, a lot of people will probably approve of this. Initial report from the White House sources, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, has just signed an immediate order, thank you to Jackie for that, mandating the death penalty without the possibility of pardon for the shooter of Charlie Kirk. This is an unusual and extraordinary step, they say, since death penalty cases usually go through lengthy legal procedures. White House sources added that the order was signed due to the severe scrutiny and public considerations. This is a final decision by the President, not subject to appeal or change. But the current, I believe this was confirmed as well, the current situation is that the death penalty is required for the shooter. Now, you know how I feel about governments having the right to kill people. I don't like it. That doesn't mean I don't think it should ever happen. There are some exceptional circumstances in society, like, for example, Hitler after the war. Execution there, I wouldn't necessarily be against. Some extraordinary circumstances, like I said earlier, the Pfizer bosses. It's so colossal that it's kind of, you know, the episode of TNG where he finds that planet where the guy has superpowered entity has killed all the Husnak. Yeah, we don't have courts for your crimes. So we're going to throw you to the dogs in this. Like I said with the Pfizer bosses, what they did was so evil and so colossal and far-reaching. We're going to throw you to the dogs. With this killer, it's not the same kind of crime. But the feeling is almost as big. So I can understand it. I'm not really in favor of, in principle, I'm against this. But like a lot of other things I have to talk about in the culture war, I stand against them in principle, especially, but perhaps primarily, for a healthy and ideal society, for the society I would want to live in. But this is not the society I want to live in. This is desperate times.
What might make it a bit more palatable, and what you may not have considered is in this case, as you said, for Hitler perpetuating sort of all the evils he did. In this case, this person perpetuated evils and assaults quite literally on First Amendment speech, weaponized political violence in a way that could be argued to have been a direct attack on founding ideals. So the insistence on the death penalty is an insistence upon attacking the roots of this nation, is summarily equivalent to treason, for which the prescribed penalty is death and always has been death.
That's a big leap. The idea of it could be considered terrorism. You could consider it to be terrorism, yeah. To be honest, the personal connection...
Terrorism.
Sorry, I meant terrorism. Wait. No, it wouldn't be treason. Unless he was working with Israel. But the connection between Trump and the victim of the shooting, again, yeah, I'm not going to try and stop him. It's quite an understandable reaction. Lichlord says he's got the death penalty anyway because Utah has legal death penalty. Then there you go. I believe we're near the end now. Oh, actually, we're not. What happened there? That's odd. Oh well. We got loads more. This is not, or is it? The guy, I can't remember what his name was now. Either way, I think it was the guy. Tyler Robinson is wearing a red shirt of the Salt Lake Democrats, Socialists of America. I think this was the guy, right, chat? I forgot his name. I think this was the guy. They were saying that he was a registered Republican because the shooters have learned to register Republican before they do their shooting so that the press can represent them as such. But he wasn't. Suspect's high school friend says Robinson was the only leftist in a family of very hard Republicans. In a phone interview on Friday, one of Tyler Robinson's high school friends, who asked to remain anonymous, said that the suspect was pretty left on everything and was the only member of his family that was really leftist. The rest of his family was very hard Republican, the friend said. Around sophomore year, the friend said Robinson became more extreme in his political views and would always just be ranting and arguing about them. The friend said that they played video games together a lot in high school and noted that the bullet engravings with the arrows was a reference to Helldivers 2. We'll get to that in a minute. Which was we mentioned earlier, they say. He said that the arrows specifically were in reference to calling in a big bomb that exists in the game called the 500 kilogram. When a friend saw the news on Friday, he said he was shocked. I knew Robinson had strong political views, but I never thought it would go even near that far. So there's more to add to the tapestry of his political views. Here is Tyler Robinson in a video, apparently.
Congratulations, you have been selected to receive the Resident Presidential Scholarship from Utah State University. The value of this scholarship is approximately $32,000. This scholarship is available for 4 years or 8 semesters.
The caption to this is, if you haven't had any doubt about the responsibility of academia in turning relatively normal kids into monsters, here he is before he went into university. Now, we can't judge much about his character from this. I'm sensing a bit of autism. And I think for him to have done this at all, he would have to have some sort of psychopathic traits. But he does sound relatively normal here. What I do notice is he has quite a Weasley low T voice. And in my view, it's crazy to say, but in my view, one of the, if not the best qualifiers, identifying traits for the people who do these shootings is low testosterone. Because testosterone allows you to regulate violent impulses. And that's also where you get the trannies. So I think that's your identifiable trait, even more so than almost anything else. Excuse me, chat, I need to swap my microphone over. You should barely notice the difference. Except for the loud clicking that probably made. There we go. That should fix it. Someone says he does not need to have been psychopathic if he truly believed he was saving America from legislation. That is definitely possible. Yes, people who are not psychopathic can go there. But it is less likely. Continue. Yes, here's what he would look like if he was black or Chinese. Very important. But yeah, the person that Pilgrim here is responding to says the killer of Charlie Kirk is Tyler Robinson, white boy, right-wing, Republican, wealthy family, born and raised in Utah. Bad week for MAGA, he says. And this is unfortunately kind of delusional. White boy, it's a white country. Firstly. Right-wing, not true in the slightest. No evidence of that at all. Republican, that is your only evidence that he's right-wing, but registering Republican is free and easy. Many people did it incidentally just to try and mess with the numbers. And shooters have started doing it strategically just to give the press something to pretend that they're right-wing about. Wealthy family, what relevance does that have to MAGA? MAGA is mostly a working class movement. Born and raised in Utah. Yeah, again, what relevance does that have to MAGA? Utah's a big fucking place. You're wrong, mate. All the evidence is coming out against you. This is a bad week for MAGA because one of MAGA's top guys got shot by a crazed fucking leftist. And this is what he'd look like if he was black or Chinese. Next thing. Yeah, oh, look. Actually, is this the same guy? I keep forgetting his name. Tyler Robinson. No, I don't think it is. I think this is someone else. He was using a gun. Austin. Different guy, I think. Not sure. Chat, why is this here? Tyler Robinson, wasn't it? Why is he saying Austin? Is this a nickname or something? He doesn't know the same guy. I think I'll skip it. Wolf says, Tyler Robinson is not registered as a Republican. Voter registration records show he's registered as unaffiliated in any political party, listed as an inactive voter. Okay, so not even that was true. Thank you, Wolf. That's very useful information. If it was true, it wouldn't make any difference, but it's not even true. Someone said, this year there are a lot of leftists registered as Republicans because they tried to prop up Kamala against Trump. That's certainly true. Okay, let's continue. Quote, the Charlie Kirk shooter was a groyper. I'm fairly certain he's actually white. Yeah, that rules that out. Next thing. That's also interesting, but it's about a different story. Okay, this guy raises a point. He says, MAGA would say, The FBI lied about Jan 6th. They lied about the Hunter laptop, Russia, Hillary Clinton's emails, the kidnapping of Michigan Governor Whitmer, 9/11, Oklahoma City, Waco, Texas, Randy Weaver, Butler, Pennsylvania, and Catholic extremism. But by God, they must be telling the truth this time. We got him. It's a fair point on the surface. There's a few issues with it. Almost all of those examples that you list were either under Democrat governments or under uniparty Republican governments. Those that were under MAGA governments were
deep state motivated.
I don't think any of them. Maybe one. But yes, as Doc is saying, deep state not necessarily Trump's FBI as far as we can assume it is, but deep state below, above, between, within it. But questionable whether that even still exists, questionable whether there's any of that left. Maybe there wasn't an internal, well, it probably wasn't internal, but maybe there wasn't much of an internal deep state, maybe it was mostly external. Epstein files say probably that is a totally different thing we've gone over in great detail. There are plausible explanations for that do not assume guilt or complicity on Trump's part, but it is very suspicious, I agree. But that would be one to add to the list. Again, I'm not sure it's a great example.
And the one point I would try to make here is like the deep state interference or stalling or all these other things that we've seen and have legitimately been problems. Kash Patel, JD Vance, Donald Trump, literally everyone with power in this administration knew Charlie Kirk and was invested. So stalling, incompetence, none of that will work when the people ordering you are probably checking every 45 minutes if you're not busting your ass chasing it down.
True, at least on the surface again, but unfortunately, it's politics, it's high stakes. We have to assume that people that may appear to care have other motives. In this case, I don't think they do, but we have to assume that it's possible. The FBI probably have the right guy, I would guess, but it's not for certain. We'll need to keep looking into it. We'll keep going for now. Now let's talk about this. There was a press conference from... Oh, that's weird. That's not supposed to be happening. Okay, that's fixed it. There was a press conference from the Utah governor, which I'll show you more footage of soon, which is really funny shit, in which Kash Patel gave information. I'm not going to show it on stream because it's longer than it needs to be. I'll just summarize it. They gave information about how they caught him. They actually gave quite a lot of information, which I approve of. Utah governor spent quite a lot of time pontificating. Not a big fan of him. He's not a good public speaker anyway. Kash Patel was at least short and sweet in terms of what he was saying. He basically made it clear to everyone that the FBI didn't really fucking do anything. They may have found him eventually, but essentially the way they found him is the dad reported him to the FBI and they went and picked him up. But Kash Patel ended his part of the press conference in such a peculiar way. And I know what he meant, I think, but it was such a bad thing to say. He said, at the end of his speech, as if to Charlie, see you in Valhalla. Right, I know what you meant. You meant he's fighting in a war, the culture war, by speaking, that he died in battle. Okay, I get that. But he's a devout Christian. Very strong Christian. It's a white Christian country, and you're an Indian, and you're implying that he went to a pagan afterlife. Mate, drop the intent to indicate that you believe he died in battle and just say, I'll see you in heaven. Come on. Telling a Christian that they went to a pagan afterlife is not honoring them. It doesn't matter what else is true. That's a terrible thing to say. Kash. I've not seen much to be impressed with Kash about so far, to be honest. Yeah, there you go. Kaiser Holt says, in case you feel like a silly story. Thank you. I may look at that later. Ping me after we cover this one. Maybe we'll go after that. Over that after that. Garmin says, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Kash a bit tistic? I would say probably so, yes. But he made a pretty dumb mistake here. This guy says, I wish I was American. You never get bored. Is America even real? Poojit wishing a Christ like a good time in pagan heaven. Yeah, it's all a bit fucked, and I don't think Kash made a good decision there. But yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's nasty, Wolf. Let's continue, though. Okay, so this is interesting. They, referring to the FBI, I think, said the killer planned it on Discord. Discord just said, now that's not real. So now we've got a dead political figure, a federal accusation, and the tech company publicly saying the feds made it up. Well, it's quite about the same. I'll continue reading. Not twisted or exaggerated, not fabricated. They're not lying to cover it up, they're lying to build it, he says. A narrative was uploaded before the facts were downloaded. Another PSYOP patch with debug notes still showing. You can tell it's true because it rhymes. Actually, it doesn't rhyme, but it's poetic. And the only reason you're seeing it is because the simulation glitched, he says. Now, you can tell it's true because he's quoting the Matrix. Discord didn't clear their name, they broke the fourth wall. You're not watching a murder mystery, you're watching script writers argue in real time. Stay awake, the feed is folding. Now, this kind of rhetoric usually correlates with a schizo who's putting more connections in than there should be. But what I'm trying to find out here is, did Discord actually refute this claim? I don't even know what the claim was. So I'm going to try and look this up. Try and find out more about it. So FBI Discord shooter. Okay, so the FBI is lying about something. If the shooter never used Discord to plot the assassination, why did the FBI claim he got the gun from someone he met on Discord, it says. He wants to take bets on whether the shooter, a transgender male, was on the FBI's radar. That was a totally different shooter. Okay, we need stuff from the Charlie Kirk shooting specifically. It says the suspect, a few seconds before Kirk was shot, sent a message with his phone and then pretends to shoot with an automatic weapon. We will give the authorities to investigate it. That's from days ago. We're specifically looking for stuff about Discord. Okay, Charlie Kirk shooting suspect joked about it on Discord the day after the shooting when an acquaintance in the group chat suggested he looked like the shooter. Example, better also get rid of this manifesto and exact copy rifle I have lying around. Interesting. A roommate told officers that Robinson discussed the engravings in his movements after the killing in an online chat room. Authorities said it is thought he used the website Discord. This person's a boomer, which is also a gaming platform. This person's a double boomer. Is used for communicating with others online. Chat, do you know what Discord is? Typically of a shared interest, blah, 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 blah. Shiva from Drop Point. I'm not seeing anyone denying it. There was that one reference up before. Chat, do you have anything on Discord denying? Oh, I found it. Discord says platform not used in suspect's murder plan. Okay. Discord says platform not used in suspect murder plan. Don't tell me this is fake. TMZ. Don't see it here. Okay, thank you, Wolf. That would work. A link is better than a screenshot if you've got one. Okay, okay, that is the right one. So TMZ is not the most trustworthy of sources, but we'll have a look. Discord was not used by Tyler Robinson to either plan the murder of Charlie Kirk or to hide the evidence. TMZ has learned. Discord spokesperson tells TMZ, whatever, it's not the best form of evidence. In the course of our investigation, we identified a Discord account associated with the suspect, but we have found no evidence that the suspect planned this incident or promoted violence on Discord. Okay. Do you think it's possible he used a different account to actually plan the violence? Do you think, I mean, he's a university student. Do you think he's smart enough to have an alt account? Yeah. So, again, this was very eloquently written, this schizo post, but I figured that there might have been something more to it. We'll have a look onwards, but I suspect it's going to end up being incorrect. The statement goes on, the message referenced in recent reporting about planning details do not appear to be Discord messages. These were communications between the suspect's roommate and a friend after the shooting, where the roommate was recounting the contents of a note the suspect had left elsewhere. So there you go. He may well not have actually planned it on Discord, but he may have still, or not not originally planned on Discord, but still discussed aspects of it on Discord. I know what the FBI said, actually. I need to find their statement too. Authorities say Robinson's roommate showed them Robinson had made a joke on Discord and then showed investigators the messages, which included Tyler stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. Discord seems to be saying these communications were not on its platform, rather on a note that Robinson had written off the site to his roommate. Discord said it has removed Robinson's account. Okay. This could easily be the FBI fucking up because they're boomers. For now, I'm gonna go with that. Let's have a look at this source that Wolf linked. Discord said Friday that the person accused of killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk did not use a platform to plan the shooting and promote violence. Yeah, it's the same story. So it looks like it's kind of a cock up in which platform they're talking about. Thank you to Sporticus for the generous contribution. What's up, nigger? He says, do you think Charlie Kirk assassination was eliminated the moderate right and to further radicalize the right-wing normies? Nick Fuentes seems to have pushed into the mainstream very recently. Biggest English-speaking streamer. Biggest streamer doesn't really make any difference. In terms of, well, it does obviously, but he would need to have a popular perspective. Unfortunately, he is a homosexual identitarian. That's not something that MAGA is, or the American right is going to stand behind. Aside from the fact that he is brown and a Kamala fan. You know, Hassan's a big streamer as well. It doesn't mean that he's actually going to get much support popularly. It hasn't killed the moderate right, but it has shifted everyone a little bit further to the right. You may well get quite a lot of moderate left who now shift moderate right, at least in terms of their allegiance, even if not in terms of their opinions. It has radicalized people to some extent. It has pushed people into a more radical position. Maybe it should. But no, it hasn't destroyed the moderate right. And you should, I know that you, Sport, are what you yourself probably would even admit to being far or extreme right. Or something similar, you know. But that does not mean people like me are moderate right. I mean, I know that I look a long way away from where you are, but the MAGA movement is, I would not go to quite so far as to say it's like hard right or something, but it's more than moderate right. So Charlie Kirk was more moderate than a large portion of the MAGA movement, certainly more moderate than we are. If anything, this has strengthened the portion of the right that you are against, or that you would like to make more like you. Yeah, fair. The left-right dichotomy is misleading anyway. The one-dimensional dichotomy is actually a measure of, in my opinion, a measure of archetypally feminine and masculine ideology, which is why you have communism on the left and fascism on the right. It doesn't actually measure anything else. And ambiguous ideologies don't fit on it, like anarchism or forms like it. And the notion that socialism is a sliding scale between left and right, and you can all be just as authoritarian, that doesn't figure into the 1D compass either. So it's misleading. So I would use it only in reference to how others use it. It's useless otherwise. Even the 2D with authoritarian, libertarian, and then left, right is better, but it's not still great. Yeah, so there you go. I think I have answered your question. Well, the fact is, Jackie, that politics is a matrix of any number of dimensions, depending on how you want to measure it. The more dimensions you add in, the more specific you're going to be able to get with people's politics. But the less you have, the clearer you can visualize the locations. 1 is the easiest. 2 is probably the optimal for visualization. 3 is still possible, but much more difficult for people to visualize. And 4 is beyond what people can visualize. I mean, literally, you can visualize it as multiple stages of 3D, but you can't picture. Well, actually, you can picture 4D as long as you picture it changing over time. Make the 4th dimension time. 5D though, that'll be tough without it being multiple issues of 4D. Okay, so we'll continue a bit with this. Utah authorities have said that at this point they were believe Robinson acted alone. That was it. Okay, so I would guess the FBI fucked up in assuming that it was Discord that he organized on. possibly there was something else that happened on Discord. They got it confused. Now, what this guy's saying about it being extremely suspicious and spending half of his message sort of gloating over how suspicious it looks, it does look a little bit suspicious, but cock up is much more likely in this case. They're idiots. They don't know what Discord is. So I think that's the more likely explanation, but we should keep our eyes open. I don't know if Discord clones is going. I don't think there are any. No big ones anyway. The point is it's ever evolving points, ever changing. Sure. Let's continue. Oh yeah. This guy. Anyone heard of this guy? He's called Stephen King, small-time author. He's written a few books. Just in, Belfast Books has announced that they are removing all of Stephen King's books from their website after he posted insensitive and false comments about Charlie Kirk. Now, Stephen King has been on an apology tour after doing this. He said that Charlie Kirk advocated for gays to be stoned to death. Where he got this idea, I honestly could not fucking tell you. I don't know much about Charlie Kirk, but I can say with confidence that no, he fucking didn't. I don't know why Stephen King said he did, but ever since this happened and he's been corrected, Stephen King has, to his credit, been saying, I was wrong, I was an idiot, I'm sorry, etc., apologizing, actually genuine. And I do believe it probably was genuine. People are saying that he doesn't want to get sued for defamation. Yeah, but I do get the impression it's also probably genuine. Stephen King, much like a lot of other leftist figures, is not fundamentally evil. They don't want to be liars. And in this very sensitive time, it would be easy for him to be shown an example where to prove him wrong. Still, though, I understand the suspicion because he's been pretty adversarial in the past. But he's started to be dropped by various companies. I don't really have much of a problem with that. He's a big author as well. And this book company, I haven't heard of it, but it's not my field. Books. Wood pulp stacked into pages and sprayed with squid goo. Not really my field, but he's fucked.
Yeah, I would say you much prefer electronic coded patterns on rocks that have been tricked and forced to do mathematics.
Teaching sand to think was a cruel act. I'm glad we did.
Yeah, humans are magical dwarves.
Kind of. I mean, I'm not a dwarf, I'm too tall. Continue. Breaking, millions of liberals will be skipping work on September 7th to take down Trump's economy. What's your reaction? Well, they'd be skipping work anyway, some of them, because they'd be fired for celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. This I bring up in concert with the rest of it, only to say that the left are... It seems like the environment of the West has been set up to disadvantage right-wingers, honest people. Not the same thing, although at the moment it's pretty fucking close. But the left are doing more than one thing right now to try and get themselves all fired. Celebrating Charlie Kirk's death and then not going into work on the 17th. If you're a business owner in the US and your leftist employees don't come into work on the 17th, as much as it may be difficult, if you can afford to, replace them.
Well, Uzzula, I was going to say, I suspect it'll be similar to in Norway when the fairer portion of the workforce decided to, as a form of global protest against gender inequality, not show up to work for, I think it was about a week. And the only noticeable change was a 15% uptick in productivity.
That sounds like it may be maybe a little bit of an urban legend, but maybe.
No, that was actually proven. And ironically,
okay, fair enough.
A strike, productivity increases.
Fair enough. Hold on 1 second. Pardon me while I suspect the man who wrote 20 pages of child orgy into his book isn't someone who I think is a sane moral character. Did he? I don't know much about the guy, but holy shit. Somnus.
I believe it was.
Okay. Someone says, you say that, but he has a history of Twitter dishonesty, and there's the whole underage orgy thing. His US publisher and his lawyer probably told him he went too far this time and needed to damage control. That's very possible, yeah. Sports says, CPU is literally magic. Let me recommend you a channel called Core Dumped on YouTube. Channel name, Core Dumped. It is, in my opinion, by far the best resource for learning about computers, at least the hardware, but also the software. Well, the sort of low-level stuff. Dock your mics to learn. Hello, Noman. So, yeah. I think this might have been lightly photoshopped. Chat, is this real? Chat, is this real? Spores, wait, is that me, him?
The man has a life partner who is a man trying to transition to a woman who also believes they're an animal. I am significantly inclined to believe that this photo is authentic and not photoshopped.
Emu says, I choose to believe. Arblas is real. Wolf says it's believable. The fucked up thing is it is believable. It might be real. That was Kubrick. It might be real. It might be Photoshop. I don't know. Let's continue, though. Bear in mind, this might not be real, but it might be. Let's continue. That was for the story we covered earlier. Big story, of course, but we covered it already. Charlie Kirk assassin. Yeah, here we go. Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler Robinson lived with his transgender partner, and the partner was cooperating with the FBI. So let's look at the article. Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler Robinson lived with his transgender partner, a male to female trans. The transgender partner is cooperating with the FBI. The FBI, well, that wouldn't be a first. The FBI used Robinson's text with his transgender partner to solidify Robinson was the assassin. Per Fox News reporter Brooke Singman, Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler Robinson lived with his transgender partner, sources tell me. The individual who is a male transitioning to a female is fully cooperating with the FBI. Sources tell me the FBI had texts and other communication between Robinson and the individual that helped FBI authorities solidify that. That's very repetitive. Gateway Pundit, you didn't need to do that. The New York Times Post also confirmed Tyler Robinson was living with his transgender partner. Quote, Charlie Kirk's alleged shooter Tyler Robinson, same shit. That's female. Tyler Robinson was arrested on background. I believe that is all we have. But yes, multiple sources confirm he was indeed living with a tranny partner. So whether he was a tranny, I think, is not known. But he was fucking one, so close enough. Yeah, so here's what I decided to use for the thumbnail. I don't know it's real, but this picture on the left is one that I believe is real. Picture on the right, allegedly the same guy. Ooh, what's that? Oh, that's interesting. That's a fucking coincidence. Isn't it? There he is. How interesting that everyone is sharing the photo on the left as a way to label the shooter conservative, it says, but conveniently forgetting about the more recent photo on the right. Yeah, again, I don't know it's real, but it looks like the same guy. It looks like it could be anyway. So bear that in mind. See what the next thing is. Plans for media accountability. Charlie Kirk act to go viral on X after shooting. This is The Independent, so bear in mind there might be some bias. Market supporters, including Ellie Mae, who I've never heard of, are asking President Trump to rename the Smith-Mundt Act to the Charlie Kirk Act following the conservative activist's assassination. Thank you, The Independent, for calling it an assassination, actually. They could have said killing or shooting to try and make it about the guns. Public demand is surging to reinstate a Cold War-era media accountability law in response to the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, with a petition calling for its revival gathering over 5,000 signatures in just 13 hours. In the wake of 31-year-old Kirk's murder at Utah Valley University and the arrest of the suspect, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, a groundswell of public demand has emerged to revive the Smith-Mundt Act, a U.S. law once intended to limit the dissemination of propaganda under a new name, the Charlie Kirk Act. Would he support this? Let's find out. The push intensified after a TikTok by Ellie Mae, a self-identified supporter of President Donald Trump, went viral, receiving over 1.9 million views on X after fellow MAGA supporter Nick Taco shared it with her 89,100 followers. In that video, Mae accused mainstream media of spreading lies and hateful rhetoric, holding them responsible for Kirk's death, allegedly due to misinformation and conspiracy theories that spread rapidly across social media platforms. The Independent, are you implying that it was misinformation and conspiracy theories that led to people believing the media was responsible for it? Bitch, it's the misinformation and conspiracy theories you have been spreading which are, in my opinion, at least partly responsible for this attitude of such intense hate. There has never been a more divisive force in the world in terms of absolute numbers than the modern mainstream press. and I suppose never a more uniting force in terms of absolute numbers than the MAGA movement. At least uniting under something good. AI-generated images and false claims misidentifying the suspect were among the content circulated, some of which gained additional reach via Grok X's AI chatbot. You're quick to point that out, aren't you, Twitter? But aren't you? Sorry, Independent. But if they did get the right guy in the end, and no, those are not the reasons that you're being accused. The Independent. It reportedly acknowledged errors only after several false posts were uncovered. Are you aware what AI is, Independent? Cut it a little bit of slack. Largely, well, I mean, I say that, obviously, hold it to account, but don't act like that's a slam dunk. Largely reading from the change.org petition she created, May claimed media outlets regularly label people as fascists, Nazis, white supremacists, or bigots without evidence, mostly far right, actually, but those two, contributing to public hostility. She argued that accountability should extend beyond traditional news outlets to include content creators who disseminate propaganda and half-truths online. Very questionable whether you should do anything like that. It's mainly not the mainstream press that do this. It's actually mainly activists and politicians, but the mainstream press certainly bolster it, if nothing else. Each violation should be subject to a fine amounting to at least 35% of the company's value, May read from the online proposal she wrote. Baseless accusations such as labeling individuals as bigots, fascists, or racists without verifiable proof tarnish reputations and endanger lives. Such acts should not be tolerated and must invite strict accountability measures. You could argue that this is just a stronger defamation policy. And maybe there should be a stronger defamation policy, but that's probably what you're advocating here. Her petition, which has 5,000 signatures in less than a day since its launch, also includes the proposal of stringent penalties for social media companies that censor information unfairly. This is really tough because these are private companies. They run platforms. Even the social media companies, though arguably those are so big, they should be considered public squares. But the press, I hate the fucking press, guys. But I don't know if this is the right way to deal with it. And naming it after Kirk, he was a free speech advocate, activist even. I don't think that's right. It's true, motherfucker, they are publishers. But yes, technically they're not platforms. I'm just using the term more generally than that. But the same thing I said applies. So I'm very unsure that this is a good idea. Even implementing it in the first place, let alone naming it after him. You better be damn sure he would have supported it. I don't think he would have done. Should move on, but be careful with this one. A lot of, right stuff there. I believe we are on to my last thing on this now. Well, last two things, actually. Let's get this to go to the next step. This is, I believe, the database of people who have been saying nasty things about Charlie. Charlie Kirk was murdered, it says. Is an employee or a student of yours supporting political violence online? Look them up on this website. Send information on anyone celebrating Charlie's death. Follow us next Twitter. Then they give an address. It says, attention, this website will soon be converted into a searchable database of over 30,000 submissions, filterable by general location and job industry. This is a permanent and continuously updating archival of radical activists calling for violence. This is the largest firing operation in history, they say, which it might be. Waiting list and so on. Oh God, there's a fucking list of them here. Yeah, I'm not gonna go through them. But this is available if anyone wants it. I will link it, but I'm not advocating you do anything with it. Just for your information, this does exist. So there it is. That's the project. Again, as I said earlier, I'm so on the ethics of this. I don't think they should be publishing the information. I think individuals should contact their employers. What they should publish is the accounts of these people. I don't think they should be publishing personal, real-life information. But it's such a high-intensity thing. My policies, principles on doxing seem kind of small by comparison.
I did read through it. They don't publish the person's information, just account, general location, and
then that's fine.
They work for. So it's very in line with, like, here's their account. If they put their name on their account, here's their name. Here's the company they work for.
If that stuff is public, then I have no objection. If it isn't, I have at least some of injection. But a lot of these people, there's a meme, I haven't got it open, unfortunately, or I don't think I do, of like, right winger. Okay, I've set up an alt account that I made with a burner phone I bought with cash. Time to say Ilhan Omar is stupid online. Hope I won't get, murdered for it. Meanwhile, the left posts celebration of the assassination of a moderate right-wing university debate activist on their main account with their personal information and their job history, like on LinkedIn, connected to all their other social media with their face and their name. They haven't been afraid for years of any consequences for their evil acts. I'm not saying they should be, but they will be. Prediction, not recommendation. Someone says these retards are Fed posting on Maine. They fucking are, aren't they? Yeah. Everyone says, would you at least abandon your objection if the account makes suggestions as to who would be next? Yeah, that's incitement to violence. Yeah, I don't support that. Yeah. My objection to doxing is when nothing else horrific is occurring. If it's even a clause in the Cabal Charter, if your doxing of them would prevent a serious crime, go for it. Fucking dox away. Like, yeah. It has to be like, it has to really, it's not a shitty example. No, it has to really do so. That's a risk you're taking if you try and justify it that way. You've got to be right. If you are, yeah, I've got no objection. So yes, last thing I have on this story, and then we'll move on to a few of the smaller ones. Apparently they've identified him, the trans roommate. Second to last thing. Apparently they've identified the trans roommate. Dallas Express, I don't know if this is legit, but let's have a look. Trans roommate of Tyler James Robinson identified as Lance Twiggs, cooperating with FBI. Passes better than most if that's them on the right, I have to say. The trans roommate of Tyler James Robinson, the 22-year-old accused of assassinating Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk, has been identified as 22-year-old Lance Twiggs of St. George, Utah, and is cooperating with federal investigators. Fox News correspondent Brooke Singman first reported Robinson had been living with a trans partner, now cooperating with the FBI. New York Post identified Twiggs, citing public records listing him at Robinson's address and found a confirmation of the two roommates. This, again, you could argue is doxing, but it's so relevant to current events. I believe my own rules for Cabal even have an exception for this kind of thing. So let's have a look. Transgender partner, male to female, yet to be publicly identified by authorities. According to public records, Lance Twiggs resided at the same address where Robinson lived. Relatives to Twiggs confirmed the post day. Yes, they were roommates. So, yeah, that appears to be it. Did no investigation. That's him. That's Lance Twiggs. So he was gay and supported trannies. So that picture earlier with the gay flag and the tranny flag. Ooh, I wonder if it could be him. Yeah, it probably was. The family member who asked not to be identified said Twiggs was the black sheep of their St. George, Utah family, but declined to speculate on a romantic relationship between the two men. Oh, okay, I may jump the gun slightly. Maybe they were not lovers, but I wouldn't doubt it. She said she didn't know her relative's politics or whether Twiggs was transitioning to become a woman, but added that it wouldn't surprise her. Family member said she knew Twiggs was brought in for questioning by police. The Post observed Saturday that no one was at the $1,800 per month townhouse Robinson and Twiggs were believed to have shared. A neighbor claimed 2 weeks ago several people driving cars with out-of-state plates were seen going in and out. Quote, they did not give off a good vibe, the neighbor said. Kirk, 31, was struck in the neck by a single bullet. That is a picture of Twiggs skiing. You can even tell the low T from the pose. Location. Another picture of him. There's a picture of the shooter. Yeah. Picture of the shooter. Picture of the shooter. That's the guy that was asking the question, Charlie. That's the shooter's family. Oh, there's him playing with a gun. He had some experience with guns. It might be when he was much younger, actually, that one. Maybe he didn't shoot it, actually. There's him again. There's the commemoration. There's the casket. Yep. All right, so yeah, transgender partner maybe, but at least roommate. Trying to kill his shot, boyfriend is shooter, boyfriend on the run trying to stash gun and hide the evidence. Wow. Really? No way. No way is that real. The timing on Twig's Steam profile implies that they were playing Silk Song like while the shooter was trying to stash the gun. And then after they got arrested, they booted up a different game and started playing that instead. Okay, I'm sorry, that is quite funny though. Okay, fair enough. That's right. Priorities, this kind of phrase. Chat, press 1 if you'd rather play Silk Song before helping your fucking gay leftist murderer boyfriend hide their gun. Well, Nachos, this question is quite relevant to you, I think. Murder is the only part that's missing. Yeah, I got him. As far as we know. Don't question mark me, Nachos. You know exactly what I'm talking about. All right. Last thing on this topic is prepare yourselves.
Inscriptions that had been engraved on casings found with the rifle. Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices bulges, capital OWO, what's this, question mark." Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist, exclamation point, catch, exclamation point." Up arrow symbol, right arrow, and symbol, and 3 down arrow symbol. A second unfired casing read, "Oh Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow." And a third unfired casing read, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO."
You know, we've all been, I think when we were younger, we were all wishing for the day that our culture would become mainstream. Well, here it is, chat. Here it is. The shittiest, not the shittiest part of this, but really, really nasty part of all this is that the bullet that killed Kirk had the fucking notices bulge message on it. That is a shame. It takes away from the severity and the solemnity of the tragedy.
I disagree. I think it serves as further evidence as to why furry licenses and furry hunting season may need to become a thing.
Well, perhaps. Either way, this is a little bit of a macabre, but I think balanced comedic end to my coverage of this case today. I'm sure there will be more, but that's it for today. 2 hours, 22 minutes just for this section. These streamlets are meant to be in under an hour, but that was never going to happen. We have way too much to go over. But chat, we did it. 5-hour stream so far, and I'm not done either. Kirk's assassin couldn't just be a normal, couldn't just be a hair more normal, could he? Quite. That timeline is so cooked, man. It really is. Yeah. So the ciabatta thing, by the way, is a anti-fascist expression from Italy, I think. So yeah, the guy's Antifa. The guy's Antifa. He is either a furry or some kind of degenerate. He is, and what was the other one? A Helldivers 2 player. There you go. Chat, you got anything in common with the killer? Are you a Helldivers 2 player? Oh, really? You're at risk of being the next shooter then, aren't you? The Italian partisan. Something like that, yeah. Wolf says, wait, so Italian Helldivers 2 degenerate was this Wes? You know what? You might be onto something there. fucking a tranny degenerate, you know. I know, I'm just listing the things that we can infer from the bullets specifically. We do already know he's a degenerate soul, but yes. The furry specifically is questionable, because I know that the notice is bulge thing, I think is originally from furries, but it's not exclusively furry. He might well be one, of course, but I don't think we have strong reason to think so yet. Right. There, it's covered. At least for today. The murder of Charlie Kirk, obviously horrible. Not much more I can add to that. The reaction people are giving to it is completely understandable, but I'd like to reiterate that if you let your emotions control your actions in a high risk, high stake situation, you are an idiot. Worse, a woman. Don't let yourself be controlled by any factor except what is the most advantageous strategy for you or your side, or what you think is best. Work with other people. If this is going to go hot, it has to be successful. And I'm not advocating that, but at the moment, I don't think it's the right play. But I very much understand people thinking it is. I do think some sort of escalation, I don't think violence, but some sort of escalation is appropriate. The getting them fired thing, I'm not going to stop you. I think that's understandable. Other things perhaps as well. I know that there are legislative options being suggested, including the thing we just looked at for the press. Basically, this political murder, this assassination, has given the right a huge... I'm sorry to talk so practically in a macabre fashion, given the solemnity of the situation, but I must. It's given the right a huge chunk of political capital. If they spend it on violence, that's spending it extremely inefficiently. They burn it very quickly and more. If they spend it efficiently, the right can establish a significant gain in their power to do good with this capital. For all his faults, and actually there aren't that many, but for his faults, Trump is smart enough, I think, to do this. Here's hoping, and I ask the rest of you to be smart as well. You are no doubt angry, many of you. Not all of you, many of you. Well, I suppose we're all angry, but no doubt many of you are very angry. A lot of you have been talking about what needs to be done. Vengeance, all this stuff. Understandable. I ask that you direct that feeling as motivation, not as reaction. Put that into smart plays. Don't put it directly into what will ultimately be self-sabotaging plays. We can still win this without blood being shed, and there are many advantages, subtle that they may be, to doing that. I mean, blood being shed, I mean, that's the wrong way to put it, but without large-scale conflict. Charlie Kirk's death does not need to be a justification to do more death. Could be a justification to end it.
We should spend the capital earned by Mr. Kirk's martyrdom and sacrifice in the way that would be best aligned with Mr. Kirk's ideals, by debating and winning over the normies and driving out the insane leftists.
I don't agree that following his beliefs is the correct answer. As far as representing him, always represent him accurately, is why that policy should not be named after him. I don't think he would buy it. But just because he's the martyr doesn't mean you have to do next what he would do. You certainly should consider what he would want. But there are many who will say, Charlie Kirk tried to talk and he was shot for it. Why would anyone else try and talk anymore? It's a fair comment. I believe it is the correct path. It is the most efficient way and the most effective way to win. I'm not talking morally, ethically. I'm not talking principles. I'm not talking any of the nonsense, none of the abstract. It is the most effective strategy to win completely, in my opinion, strategically. If you can't help but to cut that corner, go hot early, you will lose something for it, even if you win the war. And it may be something you can't get back. It may be something that America's missing for a very long time. It's hard to say what. We'll go into more detail at other times. But be careful with that. Pick the strategy that works best. remember, you will lose a large chunk of support the moment you start with violence as well. But whatever you do, as much as I said before, I'm not trying to jump on the bandwagon of pretending to know or revere him before he died, but I know he was very effective, and I know that his death has made him essentially a martyr and has elevated him much more into the public consciousness than he was already. And so to those who do now revere him more, and maybe rightfully, I will say, whatever you do, go with the knowledge that you now do it partly in his memory, in his name, partly. So don't necessarily do what he would want per se, but do what is best. Do what would allow what he wanted, the world he wanted, to have the most chance of coming about. The world you and he both wanted. Best chance of coming about. That, I think, will be it. I will end it there. Thank you, chat. And if you're on YouTube, come join us on Rumble or Discord, where we will be continuing this stream for a while with some other stories, some smaller stories and some just other stories. Not for that much longer, but for a bit longer. Thank you for joining. I'll see you there.